We will conclude the update training, or proceed, I'm sorry, with Jimmy Pro and Denise Burrow.
Okay. This afternoon we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up in the CAD releases this year. We're going to talk about 3D design, digital delivery. I'll try to get through those topics pretty quick because the hot topic recently has been the plan summary boxes. So I'll run through the first three and then I'll pass it along to Denise and she can talk in detail about the plan summary boxes. So software updates. We're getting ready to release Fdot SS2 maintenance release 1. We expect that out very soon, within the next week or so. It's going to contain several updates. We've got several enhancements to Link Data Manager. We're working on some Sheet Navigator enhancements. And then whatever bug fixes or enhancements that have been requested since its release back in August. In March, coming up late March, the late first quarter of 2014, we're going to look at an Fdot 2014.c3d update. That will include a new application that that'll include a new application for doing the plan summary boxes, similar to the way LDM does it on the MicroStation side. We're just going to adjust the microphone here.
Okay, sorry about that. Just give us just a second.
Is that a little better?
Much.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I'll just start over on this slide. So the Fdot software updates, we're going to begin by releasing Fdot SS2 MR1. It'll be out in the next week or so. It's going to include several updates. We've got updates to Link Data Manager, we've got updates to Sheet Navigator, and then of course the bug fixes and various enhancement requests that have been taken care of since the original release back in August. Fdot 2014.c3d, we've got an update for that coming late first quarter. It'll include a new application for processing the plan summary boxes, similar to the way LDM does it in MicroStation. And then this summer we're going to look at releasing Fdot SS3, and it'll be based on the Bentley Open Roads technology, Geopack SS3, and it's going to bring several updates as far as workflows and so forth. So we'll be getting more into the training and so forth for that as we get closer to the June and July timeframe. So now we're going to start talking about the 3D modeling. So why should you be modeling? Basically, with the 3D modeling, it's a lot easier to evaluate design alternatives. You can quickly see your different options and how they react. You get better quality control. You can identify the conflicts earlier. So as you adjust profiles and so forth, if your things don't line up quite right, then it's obvious as soon as they occur that you need to make some more adjustments there. Again, immediate visualization helps out with this. It's excellent for public understanding. You're just looking at a model of the roadway. You don't necessarily have to be able to translate between cross sections and the plan view and the typical section and so forth. to get a good idea of what's going on in the roadway. From the model, you can generate automated machine guidance or AMG information that construction can use to power their equipment. You've got the virtual computer model helps determine the constructability. It's easy to see as you're going through, whether certain features will work in that project. Whether you need to adjust profiles to get things to fit or whatever. So it's on demand. You're seeing the changes that are made. And as you go forward and pass this on down to the other customers, the modeling can be integrated in construction to give you 4D and 5D, the scheduling of the construction and the cost of the project. And that can be generated based on the models using the various construction applications. Okay, so that's why you should be modeling. So why must you start modeling? And this is the big push here. All new projects should be utilizing 3D design techniques. It's very important. The CAD software vendors are no longer supporting the 2D methods. You're not going to be able to use criteria, for example, to cut cross-sections in the future. Autodesk currently only supports modeling with their Civil 3D application, and future releases of Bentley will also drop support for criteria. So the roadway modeler in that case will be the only application to actually do the roadway design. Second big item is contractors are increasingly requesting the 3D models to support their machine guidance. And, for every one you hear, there's probably 2 or 3 that are going out and just modeling your 2D plans, kind of reverse engineering the project to get the modeling information they need to drive the equipment. And then third, the FHWA has an Everyday Counts initiative where they're encouraging the various agencies across the country to jump into the new technology, start doing more 3D work, LiDAR, so forth, all of the newer technologies, and kind of bring the transportation industry, up to the latest technology. So basically, FDOT will sunset the support of the legacy 2D design tools. The next major release in July will probably be the last one that includes any proposed criteria. After that, even if we were to include it, it wouldn't function in GeoPack any longer. So that's really the driving factors there. The transportation industry as a whole is kind of in a transition to this new technology, and we're just going to get to the point to where that's the only option available. So what do you need to get started in 3D modeling? You're going to need an existing surface, a baseline, a proposed profile, and a typical section. And basically, when you plug this into Roadway Designer or whatever, the baseline and proposed profile are going to, define the horizontal and vertical. You would then apply your typical section, generate a set of components or typicals for that to match that typical section, and then push that through your baseline. And then to tie to the existing ground surface, you're going to need that to see where all your end conditions can go and tie to the ground. So that's basically what you need to get started. And what are the keys once you get to that point? Basically, you want to start with the best survey data available. Basically, a DTM is required. 300-foot or 1,000-foot cross-sections aren't going to cut it with this. Basically, if you are getting like 300-foot cross-sections, your model's only right 17 times in a mile. So, you're losing your accuracy by doing that. You also want to plan the work. Basically, what we mean when we say that is, before you get started, you want to sit down and think about it. What are the limits of the job? Do you have a huge DTM? If so, you might want to break it up into smaller, more manageable sections, depending on your hardware. What are the participants? Are you going to have just one person doing this modeling, or are you going to have a crew of people, 3 or 4, working on it? If that's the case, then you're going to need to also break it up because, as you probably know, Windows will only let one user at a time access a file. So in those cases, we recommend maybe breaking it up in, say, a mainline section, any ramps in their own sections, any side streets in their own sections or corridors, and you'd break it up in folders. So you got to be thinking about your namespaces and how you're going to be laying this out. Name the folders in obvious naming convention so you can easily recognize what's contained in each of those folders based on say street names or whatever, and so forth. So you just want to take the time up front to go ahead and plan that out before you get started, so you're not having to redo stuff farther on down the line. You then just want to build the design from a simple concept first and then refine it. So what that means is, like I said, you want to take your typical section, use your components to build up typical in the roadway designer or whatever, and then push that down your baseline. So you just get a simple corridor right off the bat. And then you can go from there and start polishing up your corridor, fixing any intersections, any driveways, any of that type of stuff one at a time. And you just keep building on the model till it's complete. You want to keep the model and the 2D plans coordinated and updated. And with the approach we've taken here at Fdot, that's fairly simple because we try to set up our typicals and components in corridor modeling to actually target your 2D plans. So, if your edge of pavement widens out or you add a turn lane, the components, if applied the way we set them up, should just automatically recognize those changes, and the next time you process your corridor, it should recognize those and update your model as you go along. And then finally, you want to do checks of the model periodically, especially just before you turn it in. Make sure that the model and the plans and the real world conditions out there all match up. So maybe you want to reference your model to your 2D plans, make sure things line up. Push them all out to Google Earth, make sure everything's lining up on the roadway where you think it is, and so forth. And just do a little QC there at the end or all along really throughout the project to make sure everything's lining up as you expect. So, benefits for construction. And I just wanted to put this in here because one of the big issues, as you've seen on the previous slide, is that a DTM is required, and we've heard concerns. That's the biggest argument to this at this point, is that, well, we're not programming for a DTM survey on these projects. But, if you spend a little bit more money up front, we've heard, it costs somewhere between 14 and 20% more to get a full DTM over a conventional survey. But the survey cost is cut up to 75% in construction when you're using the automated machine guidance, because they don't have to go out and stake anymore. They don't have, string lines to put up and follow. By using that method, they can reduce the equipment idle time and, less rework, basically rework and pounding the same dirt over and over again. So, there's just less maintenance on the equipment, which will save money there in construction. It's going to reduce fuel consumption. You're going to have less greenhouse gas emissions just because you're not reworking the dirt over and over again. And of course, increased precision is going to result in smoother surfaces. Even though you don't have those stake lines and you're not eyeballing every 50 feet to keep the blade right, the model will provide a much smoother surface than you could get just by aiming between stakes. So basically, the final product will wind up as a better roadway for the public. 3D deliverables. So if you're using these methodologies, using the corridor modeling or Civil 3D, we're going to have certain deliverables that are going to be defined. We'll be putting out a CPCH update soon after the maintenance release, where we'll define some deliverables for that. And basically, the 2D planometrics When we say that, it's like the proposed design file, the proposed drainage files, and so forth, can just be saved out in a DGN format or whatever, or DWG, so they can be imported and used in the various equipments and softwares that construction uses. The 2D existing topographics, so your TopoRD, your UTEXRD, your DREXRD, your various topographic files would also be saved out in a DWG format so they can be used in the equipment. Alignments and profiles would be saved out to a LandXML file that can then be imported in the construction software. Proposed break lines of the model can be exported to a 3D DWG format. The 3D existing surface, or a tin file that you get from survey, you can easily just export that to a LandXML, or provide it in a DWG format as well. I believe the contractors will prefer the LandXML because they can import that and kind of parse out data that is unneeded there. And then finally, the 3D proposed tin surface, that's going to be just the top of the design. We're not going to be providing like the different subsurface layers that would be possible there. Because the construction equipment can easily, plug in a difference. So say you've got, a foot to go down from the finished surface to the bottom of the base, they can easily just dial that into the equipment, and it'll, drop the elevations that the equipment's working to. And all these files are easily extracted from either MicroStation or Civil 3D. It's basically just some right clicks and exports, or file save as, and you can generate all of those files very easily. So if you're getting started at this, we've got some learning resources available. We've got an FDOT course guide. This will be a training manual and data set that you can go through. It's available on our website at the link shown here. We've got a number of webinars that we've been given over the past few years on this, and we'll be updating those as we need to. But it's there's a vast library out there already. So if you go to our posted webinars page, you can just type in the search field corridor or modeling, and it'll just filter everything out and show you just the ones that are related to the corridor modeling. On the FDOT Design Expo sites for the past couple years, our presentations that we've given there are available. Of course, the FLUG, we also have presentations available. And the FHWA has a webinar series going on as well that you might want to look into. And I provided a link here where you can go out to their page and see if you want to register for any of those webinars as well. Okay, so that's 3D design. Let's look next at digital delivery. Basically, an emphasis on transitioning to digital delivery should be made in this next year. The classical electronic delivery software is going to be sunset. So in the future, PEDS, EDI, and the other applications associated with electronic delivery are not going to be delivered in the FDOT software. District 2's really been pushing this, and they're fully transitioned at this point. I believe they only accept digital deliveries. And I know several of the other districts are in the process of either testing or using on some selected projects. So this is something that we really want to push in this next year to get everybody moved over to the new digital delivery process. It's a much easier process. Basically, it streamlines things. You can just create a print set from Sheet Navigator, print that out to a PDF, and then do your signing and sealing on the PDF using the digital signatures. And so where would you get those? So if you want to acquire a digital signature or a digital certificate, the FDOT is using ASIS level digital certificates, and there's a couple different ways you can get those. The Fdot staff internal to the department can request a certificate voucher through the Automated Access Request Form, or ARF. And basically there you would just go in and say, request your digital certificate, and you would get a voucher number back that you could then plug into IdenTrust's website and basically use that to purchase a digital certificate. And then consultants can also purchase their digital certificates from IdenTrust. And there's a link to the Fdot page of IdenTrust. That basically, if you go to the IdenTrust website, and then there's going to be a government link across the bar, and then you'll see Fdot, Department of Transportation, listed out in there, and it'll go into a little bit of detail of the certificates and provide links to certificates that the DOT is going to be using there. Digital delivery learning resources. Again, we have a series of webinars that are available out there. If you go to our posted webinars page and just type in digital certificate in the search pane, it will basically filter out all the results, so you're only seeing the ones related to digital delivery. And you can then review those for information. We also have, again, presentations available on the previous Design Expo websites and on the Flood website as well. Okay, so I'll go ahead and let Denise take over. We'll talk about plan summary boxes next, and take it away.
Thanks, Jimmy. Welcome to the plan summary box portion of today's update training. I'm Denise Broom. If anyone is out there, there's a lot of information, and I know there's been a lot of questions that have arisen with the changes that have with eliminating the comp books and going to the new plan summary boxes. First, I just kind of like to give an overview. Last July, there was a bulletin that we posted. It was a joint bulletin between Structures, Roadway, and Estimates. And basically what that document says is that we will no longer be doing comp books, and we're going to be using these new plan summary boxes. The biggest impact with this new process is that it's really mostly the roadway and the structures design groups and those component sets of plans. Every feature that we've got out on our roadways, all the work that needs to be done, so all those pay items, they have to be quantified within the summary boxes. The settings in that, or I guess timeline for that, was basically from July lettings of 2014. And in essence, what that means is that anything that, any projects that have quantities starting last month, January, really need to be using these new plan summary boxes. There will still be comp books in the works, but they should be those that are already sitting out there. If you're starting something new, at this point, you do need to be using this new process. All of our summary boxes are to go on summary of quantity sheets, and all of these sheets have sheet number prefixes. In roadway component, they need to be SQ-1 through whatever, how many you need. For structures, it's a little bit different because they have, well, their plan set is just different in that they have a general bridge section, they have bridge 1, bridge 2, bridge 3 within their set of plans. So the sheet numbering would be BQ-1 through however many for the general, and those would be you know, if there was any roadway type summary boxes that needed to be included because there isn't a roadway component. All other summary pay items would be in the summary of quantities for structures, and those would be BQ1 for structure 1, and all those quantities for that structure is on one summary box. And then you'd have BQ2-1 for, and there may be multiples, so you'd have BQ1-1 and BQ1-2, and so forth. All right, area shapes. All of our shapes are to be in the CAD drawings. They will no longer be documented in a plan sheet format like we had in our comp books. All of that type of documentation is to remain in the CAD drawings, and that is the QTDSRD. And that file, along with the rest of the project, will be delivered to construction, and construction will have that and those drawings in order to access to get any information from the drawings if need be. All backup documentation is to be put in the calculations folder. This is a new folder that got added back in August when we released the to Fdot SS2. And this calculations folder, it'll hold PDFs, the Excel files for their templates for their summary boxes, any other Excel files that they may create, or Word documents that may be created that has formulas, or any other backup documentation for any of the quantities goes in this calculations folder. There are no changes to the workflow for drainage or the other component sets that use the tabulation of quantity sheets. All of our tab sheets are going to say just like they are. And in that regard, plans are done as usual. All right. Fdot SS2 includes all of the new tools and enhancements that were created in order to support these new requirements for the plan summary boxes. I know that there are still a lot of users out there that are using Fdot 2010 and even some earlier versions. It's highly recommended at this point that everyone moves to the Fdot SS2 workspace. It's very beneficial at this point because we are adding things all the time to that workspace to try to make this transition to these new summary boxes and new workflow as easy as possible for you guys. So that's definitely something to look into if you're not already using SS2. There's a lot of training out there. If anyone does not already know, I've already done a series of webinars on the creating quantities and the new summary boxes. If you'll go out to our website, I know Jimmy's already made many mentions to our posted webinars page, but there is a section, FDOT quantities / summary boxes, and you will find half a dozen or better webinars that have been posted, not only for design but for reviewers, as well as there's some for structures, roadway. So definitely go out there and take a look at that. There's also to be at the last expo and the last FLUG, and also coming up at the next Design Expo and the upcoming FLUG this summer, there is also more training that will be made available using the latest enhancements and wherever we're at with this all the updates, because I know there's a lot of work that can be done to automate and to make this easier, and we have it in the works. So keep posted to where we're at, and as new things develop, we will be doing weekly Wednesday webinars as well. Okay, coming enhancements with our maintenance release 1. I kind of wanted to touch base on these, and once I've gone through my slides, I'm going to do a kind of go live with MicroStation and show you some of these things. One thing that has been since the get-go, I mean, even before plan summary boxes, but there's been a lot of requests for the print area within Excel to be supported. So that we finally got that into the tool. So you have the option now to use that print area in Excel and tell it to use that print area, and anything that you put outside of that print area, whether it's notes, formulas, whatever it may be, will not be grabbed to put into MicroStation. So it stays in Excel. We've had a lot of minor changes. They're too numerous for me to even put in here, but they're nothing that's been nothing major, but just small tweaks to the formatting in those summary boxes. If you've already got these summary boxes out there, I just want to throw this in right now, is that if you have them, you've already got your templates and you've already got your project ready to go out the door, you don't have to update to these new ones. The new ones are just, I'm adding things in to help make things easier. So it's not that you have to go back and redo, it's just there for the future. So the next time you need that particular template for that summary box, it'll be there for you. Another change that or enhancement that we've added is that if you're using the automation, which is the create new from quantities option, when you're creating your links in Link Data Manager, the default location that it will save your Excel file to is now the calculations folder, because all of those Excel files that are created through that portion of the tool needs to be saved to that particular folder. This next one is going to need a little bit more explanation. Worksheet protection settings. I've set them up in all of our templates, and basically we had a meeting with some of the folks in construction, and one of the things that they have requested, and I guess more specifically it's final estimates, one of the things that they have requested is that when construction gets their files, that anything that design has done, that it can be locked, so that when whoever has it in construction, they start adding in, whatever values that they need to, quantities in the, for their final columns that are within those summary boxes, that it needs to be locked so that it can't mistakenly overwrite what design has in place. So I've gone through all of the templates, and I have set the protection settings so that if you, and I'll show this to you in Excel, but as you, if you lock the, set the protection lock on, then it locks all of the design that leaves everything that construction may use, which is those final columns, the construction remarks columns, as well as the final backup worksheet. All of that has been left open so they can make whatever changes, but anything that has to do with design is now locked. So and this is brand new, so what we're going to be asking you to do is the last thing before those files go out is to lock those the Excel files so that there isn't any confusion or mix-up or mistakes happen once it gets into construction. All right. We've also got some new ad hocs that will be available for use. Basically, these ad hocs are going to be used for sorting the quantities. I have two different types of sorts that I can do. One function is that within my database, and I can use the summary of permanent driveways as an example, within my database of quantities, there was not a way to determine which summary box that particular quantity would need to go on if there's more than one summary that it could go on, if that makes sense. So basically, let's use asphalt as an example. I will have asphalt that will go on my main line and down my road, and that needs to go on my summary of pavement. I also may have asphalt that needs to go on my driveways. So if I have that case, if I have all of that in one database, there was no way for me to automate that because it would pull all of the quantities for both applications at the same time. So what we've done is I've added in an ad hoc, and it will be real obvious, and I'll show it to you. But there's an ad hoc in there for the type of, I think it's type of pavement, or I have to look at it. But anyway, you simply set that to either roadway or to a driveway, and then it uses that ad hoc and it pulls only those quantities, so I get the right amount of quantities without duplication and without having to create two separate databases to get it all into the correct summary boxes. It's also set up that way for Sidewalk. 6-inch Sidewalk can be used on it can go in the summary of Sidewalk, but it can also go in the summary of driveways. Okay. Next is the other sort of function is for basically it's ordering what part of this quantity goes in which column, and I really needed this ability for the miscellaneous asphalt. It's all one pay item, 339-1, but if you look at the summary box, I had multiple columns that particular quantity may be separated into. So I may have, it may be underneath guardrail. It may be in like a trail type application. There was several different options. I think there's like 4 columns, and so I couldn't automate it because there was no way for me to determine which went where. So now there's an ad hoc that is assigned to the miscellaneous asphalt that you guys can now start using, and you set that to the correct column and that for that ad hoc value, and then it will place it in that column within the summary box. Okay, hopefully that all made sense. Okay, added automation. I've already made talked about the miscellaneous asphalt. And we also have the summary of temporary crash cushions, and that one doesn't have any quantity information, but it is required to have the, I guess it's the design type information in order for construction to be able to use in order to choose the correct type of crash cushion that is needed at each location. So that I've set that up now so that you can use that for the temporary crash cushions. Utility adjustments. This one I have set up just so that you understand that particular summary box is really to be used for, and the idea behind using this one was when you've got valves and manholes out in the roadway and you need to adjust them up and down in your milling operations. So those are the pay items that are currently, I think it's 425-5, 425-5-1, and 425-6. So those 3 pay items are currently set up to be automated for the summary of utility adjustments. Curb and gutter and traffic separators, that particular summary box has had some enhancements made to it. We've added deduction columns in there. You'll see the gross length, the deductions, and then a net length. That is currently what you have out there is it's line item, and you just get the station to station and then just a length. So now we'll be able to get the deductions, and you can see what's going on with each particular item, because there was some question like, well, what if I see, you know, station to station, it adds up, you know, it's 100 feet, but I get a length of 80 feet. Why? Now the deduction columns will be in there to be able to help explain that for those that are further down in either construction or final estimates who get a hold of it. Something that needs to be known about using the deduction function within the Design and Computation Manager, it will calculate that for you, but you have to go into the design settings and change the deduction tolerance. By default, it is set to 1/2 foot, so you'll want to put that in there for, like, say 3 feet. I found 3 feet to work pretty well. That has to be done first, because otherwise the default setting is not big enough for it to find the drainage structure cells in order to make the deduction for your curb and gutter. So that is something that you want to check for to make sure that it has been, you know, set correctly. And it'll be real obvious when you run your summary box and you get no deductions. You'll know that when that was run, hello, we need to go back and fix that and rerun the curb and gutter quantities. Another thing that has been fixed is the area ID column. I have an area ID column set up for this particular summary box because special traffic separators are paid for square yards, and that is an area, and it does require an area ID. However, we don't want to see that element ID, because it's using the element ID from MicroStation and associating that as the area ID. Well, every line, every arc, every shape, anything that is in MicroStation has an element ID. And so we were getting that element ID to show up in these columns for our linear foot pay items, and that was not correct. So that has been fixed, and with the new automation, you'll see that it is not being filled out. Okay, and I think this is my last slide. Basically, just look for upcoming weekly Wednesday webinars from the ECSO office. We do have a page for the scheduled webinars. Currently, we don't have anything scheduled because we have been focusing on getting all of these updates and enhancements made and pulled together. And it takes a lot out of our schedules and our time in order to get these webinars pulled together for you. So we really felt like we needed to focus on our maintenance release. And as soon as that maintenance release is out the door, our weekly Wednesday webinars, say that fast, we'll get those started back up. First one I'm sure will be you know, what's new with the new maintenance release, and then not long after that, I will be doing a webinar on all of the enhancements for Link Data Manager. Jimmy's just asked me, while I'm on the topic of weekly Wednesday webinars, I would like to ask for anyone out there, if there is any topic that you feel like you would like to see us do as a webinar, please send that to us. You can email that to ecso.support@dot.state.fl.us. Because we really, it's not just a matter of, for us, training. It's just not a matter of, you know, just putting out just something as a placeholder. We really want to get the training out that you guys need. So please, if you have any topics that you would like to see, maybe it's an old topic that maybe you've got new guys in your office and, you know, they're struggling with certain things that, you know, maybe we haven't touched it in quite some time, let us know. We'd be happy to get these webinars pulled together and get them out there for you. Okay. You'll also see on here, on that particular page, we do have a link to our email. So if you guys want to suggest topics, please do so. Okay. And that's the end of my slideshow. And I wanted to really quick move some stuff out of my way. Go into MicroStation and just show you some of these things that what to expect with Link Data Manager and the enhancements that are out there for the plan summary boxes. So I'm going to go under Actions to Fdot Link Data Manager. Our newest version is 1.00.26, and basically, let me go in here. Some of the things that you're going to see to make life a little bit easier. We now have drop-downs that's going to have a list of the latest, I think it's the last 5 here, of files that I've been into. I guess most recently, or last recently used. So that if I've created something and I need to link to more than one, I can go back and just grab it without having to browse out. And I know that got very time-consuming and a pain. Another thing is that under Create New, from Quantities, you'll also see the same drop-down that will populate with whatever MDB files that you've recently gone to. You'll see in here, I think that was already there, you'll see in here that I have got, you know, miscellaneous asphalt has been added, temporary crash cushions, and this one I don't have it in this file. It's on my other computer, it shows up, but also the utility adjustments. But I wanted to show you the curb and gutter traffic separators. It is whenever I create that link or create that template, it's wanting to put it in the calculations folder, so that should also save you some time. I know it's not much, but it does. It takes time, and so we're trying here. So let me just... Alright, so I'm going to save that file. Takes it a second. Okay, give it any kind of description. Normally that would be something, you know, like curb and gutter. So you can see it created 7 summary boxes for my curb and gutter. I grabbed the first box, and I'm going to use the print area, update graphics out of open. You can use the plot scale, and I think I need to, because I used the menu in order to put my cells in for my sheets. So tell it OK. It processes that. And this one happens to be a pretty big file. And of course it's going to do something I didn't want it to do. It was not doing that yesterday. It wasn't doing that earlier today. I did. Okay, these are not to plot scale. That's what the problem is. Okay, it was huge. Okay. I can move that, place that in my sheet. And as you can see, I've got my area ID is empty now. I've got my deductions column, actually that one's not showing up because it's type E and there wasn't any. To make it easier, if I go to create another link, I can come in here and just use that same file, shows up, and very quickly grab another box so that I can place the next one in my file. So this hopefully will help you guys, and it'll make life a little bit easier. Throw that one in. Right. The print area, I wanted to show you something else too. I just opened up the Excel file. If you'll use like Shift, and you'll see down here I've actually selected all of them at the same time. And you need to kind of be careful using this option, but I just wanted to show how if I've got columns that I have not used and I know I'm not going to use for all of my summary boxes, you don't have to go in to each spreadsheet individually. You can select them all at one time and then hide the columns. I can go over here and hide this column because I have not used those columns. And then I hit Shift, or you can hit Control and hit one of your summary boxes to get out of that mode if you need to make other type of changes. Because what I do to one, you can now see if I go to each one individually, it's the same across the board. Okay? And if I save this file and update, and I can tell it to update, and you see it made those changes. I also have the option now that I can select more than one of my links at a time. That's something new, and I can update them all at once. And again, hopefully that will help as well. So if I have 10 or however many it was, I mean, if I had all 7 sitting in there, instead of having to hit update, update, update for every single one, I can actually select multiple. Other than update, I can also delete the links. I can delete, and the graphics, or just delete the link. So these are some of the things that you guys will be seeing. It's coming soon. And we are way, way ahead of time. Do we have, and that's pretty much everything for my presentation. I guess we're opening to questions. Do we have any, Jimmy?
Type as quick as I can.
Want to read them out and I'll answer?
Let's see. The next one that's not answered is, please announce that voucher numbers are available through ARF to FDOT employees needing to sign and seal with documents digitally. Yeah, I believe that's what I was referring to, and provided a link or bullet on the digital delivery slide saying that those were available in ARF, the automated access request form application on InfoNet. And the next one is, see, in the past, summary of temporary crash cushions table is included in the TCP plans. The quantities for temporary crash cushions is included in the summary of traffic control plan table. Are there any changes to this process?
Okay. From what he just read, the temporary crash cushion table summary box. That no longer goes in the temporary control plans, which is a different section of the roadway plan set. They go with the summary of quantities behind the summary of temporary traffic control plan items. That particular summary box does not have quantities associated with it per se, and the pay item along with the quantity goes on that temporary traffic control plan summary box. And both of those go on the summary of quantity sheets. They are not to go in the traffic control plans themselves. So that is different. What's next?
Okay, I guess this is the last one we haven't answered. And this is in a reply to an earlier question. And the earlier question was, is there a way to add quantities for the curb and gutter and sidewalk items to account for constructions to the nearest joint? And then it follows up with typically survey data does not identify the joint locations. And I replied that you can when you're automating the quantities, if you end a shape or a line at where the proposed joint would be, that is the station that will be defined in that line item for the summary box, because it's going to find the extents of that element in MicroStation and pass those along to quantity manager, and then finally to the LDM for the summary box. Now, that being said, I think the biggest issue he's replying to here is the fact that the existing joint locations aren't being located by the survey crew in location. And if that's something you needed specifically, then you would have to be sure and write that up in your scope for your survey to include that information. Or, as you said, go out and take field reviews and mark those in where you need them.
Right. The easiest thing would be to, if you know that it's a sidewalk project, you've got sidewalk work that's going to be in that project, is to make sure you get that information and it's spelled out clearly in the scope of work for the surveyor, for them to gather that information for you. Because if it's not in your topo and there isn't anything we can do to try to say, okay, this is where this is at for you. It's not a part of the CAD software. It's part of what did the survey guys actually provide.
Okay. And another question came in. For quantities like asphalt and milling, how do we split up the area shapes? Can we have one big shape for the entire project? Or is there a specific way FDOT would like us to split up the shapes?
Okay. And honestly, this logic didn't change from when we had comp books to using plan summary boxes. You guys have been creating comp books for years, okay? And my answer is no. We do not want one single shape for the entire project, because that makes it very, very difficult for construction to come back and verify that quantity. We want to use, and I hate even trying to use this word, but some common sense, because everyone will interpret this differently, but basically some common sense needs to be used in, I know I've said in a previous webinar, but this is not anything written in stone. It's not a mandatory requirement, but some thing to look at is like maybe how long is your plan sheet, every 700 feet, or maybe make them, roughly 700 to 1,000 feet. Something that is not huge, something that is constructible within a day. You will want to, you may want to, break up, lane lines versus what's in your median openings, turn lanes, to make it easier in order to say, okay, I needed this much asphalt or I had this much milling, this is a turn lane, versus them going straight down the main line. If you have long lengths, okay, so your main line is two 12-foot lanes on each side of a divided highway. So I've got 24 feet times the length of my project. You can use the length and width columns, because that's easy for construction to say, okay, length times width equals this amount. Well, we did, you know, say it's 3 miles. Well, I did, you know, however many feet. I did 750 or, you know, 1,200 feet today. Well, that would equal this amount. It's something that is easy for construction to figure out. But to create a shape that includes medians and all my irregular areas, that's just, it's too much. It does need to be broken down. And I hope that answered that question.
Okay, another one, just for clarifications. Pay items that were incorporated into the comp book will now all be placed on in the SUM QRD file, or is this just linear foot and area items?
Okay, that one's a tricky question. It's saying everything that we had in our comp book is going into, now we're going to be placing into the summary of quantity sheets. For the most part, yes. There are a few exceptions to that. Some exceptions to that would be, because I know that basically, and I know there's some districts that are a little stricter on this than others. Basically, if it's a pay item used on the project, you would have a comp book sheet. Okay. Your 999 pay item numbers for things like you got your initial contingency amount, you've got your lump sum project, you have there's another one that's commonly used for the law enforcement officer. Those three, lump sum, yes, the contractor bids on, but the other two, the contractor doesn't bid on. So those two need to show up, and really, and the lump sum 999-2, there will be in your summary of pay items, but they do not go in a summary box. Okay. And there may be some other exceptions to that. We're working right now on going through the BOE. I've been working with Missy. And also, of course, as you guys find things, there's been a lot of you all that have contacted me and contacted Missy and said, okay, the BOE says this, but is that right? And so not everything is 100% correct as of right now, and we are working on getting all of that corrected, but you should be able to go to the basis of estimates, and it has a new section now for, let me go ahead and show it to you. So if I go out to the basis of estimates website, I can go down here, and let's just grab, let me scroll down, like design build, that is a pay item, but no, it is not, we're not using it if it's maintenance, obviously that's not us. Mobilization, here's one. I know it's telling me in this plan summary box section right here, it is summary of lump sum items. That's where we want to see that particular pay item. If I scroll down some more, that one's incorrect actually. This is one that needs to be fixed. Maintenance of traffic goes on the traffic control plan items. But most of the rest of these are. Summary of special detours. That would be in the pay item itself for each of those detours is going to go in the traffic control plan pay summary box. But then there is a supplemental summary box for the special detour quantities, because it is a lump sum pay item. but we do show in the plans just for reference, informational purposes. What is it going to take in order to construct this detour? And that goes into that other summary box. Don't try to incorporate all of that information into the traffic, temporary traffic control plan summary box. Okay, but look for this plan summary box to help give you added guidance. Next question.
Next question, are the lump sum projects subjugated to the same breakdown from station ranges, or is the QTDS RD file sufficient with total quantities placed in there? So basically, do you need to break out the shapes in the same ranges for lump sum jobs as a normal job?
I'm going to say yes. And it really, a lump sum job, when it comes to the quantities, you do not want to treat that any differently than you would a conventional project when it comes to calculating all of your quantities and then creating your summary boxes. The only difference between a lump sum project and a conventional project is that I am not seeing those total quantities out there on my summary box. Flip back over to MicroStation. And go to one of the, no, let's have it. This happens to be one of the ones for structures. This isn't a good example. Those temporary crash cushions. Basically, what I would want to see is this total. Actually, this one's a good one. Down here, where I've got the subtotal and total rows. Okay, these will be blank. I will have information in the rows, and I will have the quantities for each area in the list, but the totals down here at the bottom are going to be blank. Okay, that's the only difference that you're going to have here, folks. And that's why they are, you know, as Mary Jane talked about earlier, is the differences in the scope of services, is that trying to understanding what is being required and updating the way those the hours are done for this process. Okay.
Okay,
Next.
Does the structures quantity summary tables go into the structures component plan set or included in the roadway summary section?
If there is structures component, the summary sheets go in the structures component. It goes behind. If you've got a roadway and a structures component, then you're going to have the structures key sheet, and then you're going to see the summary of structure quantity sheet. It's right behind the key sheet. If you do not have a roadway component, then obviously, yes, it goes in there, but you'll have the summary of pay items sheet in between. I think the only thing only pay item that I can think of that is, it's designed by structures, but would go in roadway, is your walls. All wall quantities are to go in the roadway component, but the actual structures themselves and those quantities go in the structures component. Next.
Okay, if you have several tabulation of quantity sheets, will it calculate on the last tab sheet the grand total? And also, can you run quantities by fencing a clip and add all of the quantities on the space sheet by sheet? So can you do sheet clipping, and do you get your grand total on the last tab on it?
Okay, this sounds like it's just for a tabulation of quantity sheets question.
Sure.
Okay, tabulation of quantities. You can clip if you clip all of your sheets using GeoPack clipping, okay, and then yes, you can use the option so if I've used in here this tool, Plan Profile Sheet Composition Tool, in order to create my sheets, okay, I can do that. But in order to calculate the quantities correctly using those sheet borders, I have to calculate them from my clipRD file where my borders are at, where it can read the clip borders. I can't go to my design file, say I'm in, signing and pavement markings, and I've got all my pavement markings are in my design file, so I go there to create all my calculations. It doesn't work that way if you want to use this option. Okay, once I've done that, and like I said, I can bring it out by sheet. However, when it pulls it out by sheet, we haven't found a way around this yet. Geopack puts them, it's in columns, like you would need to see it. However, the output, the columns are not in sheet number order. If this is a way that you would like to do it, and then you can take that output in a CSV format, and then come in here. You can go into the sheets, down to Tabulation of Quantities, and I'll just throw that. It doesn't really matter where I throw that. I'll just throw it in signing. Save that file. Okay. Grab that worksheet. Sheet. And then I snap to this top corner and it places it. Okay, then what I would want to do is open that source file, and then I can copy and paste. I'll have to fill this in, what sheet numbers, and then copy and paste that information into the columns using whenever I paste it. So let me copy just so I can get the right options. I want to use this option to copy the values only so that it doesn't change the formatting in my file. It's not a very clean process. It's not something that we have automated at this time, but it can be done. You're welcome to give me a call, and I will help walk you through it.
Okay.
Is that it?
Well, the answer to the first part of the question, that the grand totals will be shown on the last table of each sheet. Like if you have a multiple page summary box, for example, your asphalt might string across 4 or 5 pages. You'll have a subtotal on each of the 5 pages and a grand total on the last page.
No. Okay, I got that part of the question now. I missed that. Got it. Okay, summary of pavement, and I'm pretty sure I have, and this actually the curb and gutter that I just did is another good example.